It's already on the board. Okay. All right. This is a three-part question. The Senate seat you're currently vying for is currently held by the retiring Kay Bailey Hutchinson. Do you think that Hutchinson has done a good job as senator? Do you agree with Rick Perry's assertion in last year's gubernatorial primary that Washington has changed Kay? And as a senator, how would your approach differ from Hutchinson's?
Well, let me deal with the third one because I think it encompasses the first two. Mm-hmm. I'm my own person, and I always get the question of, give me somebody else that is who you are, who you want to be. And I used to get that when I was in business. I got it as mayor, now I get that. The reality is there's clearly people that I would pull individual pieces from that I look at, and they've done individual things that I want to do, but I'm my own person. I want to take my own position in Washington. Clearly it's going to be based on something that you don't see very much in Washington, and that's having someone that's actually signed both sides of a paycheck and someone that's created jobs. The last position I was in, I created 2,300 jobs. So those are going to be the focus that I'm going to put on. Clearly Kay doesn't come from a business background. I think she's worked very hard for the state, and I think we all should appreciate that. But what I'm going to do is present a very different type of profile, not only in people that are in this campaign, but people that you have in the Senate today.
Okay. A battle is currently raging in Washington, D.C. over what programs to cut or eliminate to reduce the deficit. If elected, which programs would you be willing to eliminate, and which would you be willing to cut by how much?
Well, again, you're asking for trillions and trillions, so we don't have the hours. But what I will say is we have been very specific in laying out an economic plan. It is over 30 pages long. It tends to be very specific. We think it's one of the most comprehensive plans that any senatorial candidate has ever put out. And in that, we deal with not only the spending, which is an important part, and talk about the things we need to do now, not only in terms of the programs and pieces. When we talk about that, education is a great example. Education, I want everybody to be involved in, everybody engaged in, because I have a personal interest in it, and I think that everybody in our nation should have an interest in it, with one exception, that's Washington. Washington should not be in the education business. So I'll give you that example. But we also...
So eliminate the Department of Education?
Okay. But we also need to go further than that. Mm-hmm. We need to make sure, again, I'm pretty skeptical and cynical of politicians, we need to make sure that it's not just one time. Some of these programs can come back. We need to make sure that they're disciplined in the system. That's why, from a business standpoint, I think not only in terms of this program and that, I'm happy to get in that. I'm actually the one that's cut spending on both the public and private side. Most politicians talk about cutting spending. They've never cut $1 in their life. But I also understand you've got to deal with the structural pieces of it. To me, that's discipline. I've said we need a balanced budget amendment, and part of that balanced budget amendment has to be a cap on spending at 18% to bring it back into levels, so that you put the discipline in the system. Once you've got that, then all of a sudden you force the conversation. Not necessarily is program A or B good or better than the next one, but instead you do what every family and every business has to do, and that's live within their means. And that's the first thing we've got to put in place.
Okay. What policies do you think differentiate yourself from your other primary rivals?
Well, I think the reality of it is there's probably going to be, during the 6-year Senate term, there'll probably be 6 to 10 votes that'll be on the front page of the newspaper, the headlines. The reality of it is all the candidates are going to make the same levels. So the difference is going to come from the profile and perspective that people bring. Clearly, as I said, I'm not a politician. I'm not looking for another career. I haven't been in an elected office for 10 years. I haven't worked for the government and trying to move myself up on elected office. I've already had my career. What I can offer the people of Texas is a perspective that says, I'm not looking for another career. I want to deal with the economic issues. I also bring a perspective of 25 years of running businesses, and not business in any one industry, but in a wide variety of industries. That's what we need. What we have to understand is the real value add that's going to come from the Senate isn't in some vote at 11 o'clock. It's going to be working hard through the agencies, reducing regulation. It's going to be engaging in a dysfunctional environment. As I said, I walked into a dysfunctional government and I fixed that. I'm trying to address these things so we actually produce results. I am not a politician. I'm not someone that deals in 7-second sound bites. I work through issues. I try to make sure that we've got results. Process doesn't count for anything unless you produce results.
Okay. Now, how are we on time? It's going to need to take off in a few minutes. Because we've actually run through all of the set questions I have, but I can ask you a few additional ones. Obviously, now that Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst has gotten into the race. He's a man with tremendous personal financial resources. Assuming that you make it into the runoff with him, how are you going to be able to counter that tremendous financial advantage he has?
Well, if we're in the runoff, those are odds that I'll take every single day of the week. Clearly, we start with a very strong base in North Texas, both high awareness and high favorites. In a runoff, we'll have the opportunity to address the awareness issues in other parts of the state. Once people see see the different profiles, see the different agendas, again, I put a lot of detail. I want to go through issues in a lot of detail. That's to my advantage. I don't want to do it in 7-second sound bites. People get applause lines. That doesn't move the nation forward. Once they start seeing these sorts of differences, I feel very comfortable. When I first ran for mayor of Dallas, nobody knew me. By the time the election was over, I won 60%. So I feel real good about engaging people, talking about the issues, and having people see the differences that will be out there.
Okay. So what do you see as your primary obstacle to overcome in competing in the Republican primary?
I think it's build awareness in other parts of the state. Clearly in North Texas we've got a great base, but in other parts of the state I haven't been around. So all of a sudden, for the last 10 years, so all of a sudden I've got to build that awareness so people know who I am. As I said, once people understand that, then I feel very comfortable, because I think people don't want a professional politician. They want somebody that's been elected off for 10 years, and they want somebody that's got a business background. They understand how important economic issues are. So once we get that message out, I think we're really going to be in very good shape.
Obviously, the issue of the border with Mexico, border control of illegal aliens, is also a hot topic. What would your policies be in the Senate to address that issue particularly?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is say, okay, what are the principles? You always start with the principles. And to me, that's to say that you cannot allow amnesty. Not only on this issue, but I'd also argue on whatever the next issue that comes up. The idea of respecting and obeying our laws is not only important here, but it's going to be important in other issues that come on over the course of the years. You start with that principle. Then, as you pointed out, I think you've got to ensure that you've got safe and secure borders. That's an important element. You can't have any policy in place if you don't have the borders. We learned that lesson back in 1986. Then the other piece of it, though, once you've got that in place, is actually have people that want to solve the problem. I mean, today we've got politicians that walk away from the problem. And when that happens, every single day you and I pay more for it. What we need to do is have some people that will go in and say, it is an issue that has to be resolved. It has to be resolved today so that we don't end up with these additional costs and additional burdens on our citizenry, and actually have people that are willing to tackle the issue, deal with it head on, find solutions that make sense, consistent with those principles I said of no amnesty and ensuring that we've got a safe and secure border.
Okay. One of the big issues that are one of the big venues so far in this campaign has been various Tea Party forums across the state. And unlike Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst, you've actually been attending most of them. On the other hand, you haven't done as well in the straw polls there is either Ted Cruz or even long shot candidate Glenn Addison. What would be the reason for that, and why do those forums in particular seem to be immune to your charms?
Well, I think you have to look at it and see how that's kind of been loaded on the front end. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, we've gotten a lot of support out of those. I've had a lot of people come up to me and have been supportive and have built the bases in areas across our state. So I feel very good. Again, once people get a chance to get to know us and see the strong conservative values that we bring, as well as the conservative perspective, especially on economic issues, people feel very comfortable. Once they see that, and then they understand that we're actually a person that gets things done, that we're not one that talks in 7-second sound bites, and we're not going to play the game of kind of playing to the audience, but instead have the substance behind to address these issues, and importantly, the experience base, having been in business. I mean, again, a lot of people, there are politicians out there, and they love to talk about cutting spending and creating a job. They've never done either one of them. So once people understand where we come from and understand the skill base we bring, we feel very comfortable. The reception across the state has been very, very good.
Okay. Let's round up one more question. Beyond Congressman Burgess, and I know that Roger Staubach is the former Cowboys quarterback, and now a real estate agent, very successful in the Dallas area, has contributed to your campaign. Who are some of your other high-level, recognizable backers?
Well, I think you'll get to see, we'll put out very shortly a coalition job creators for Tom Leppert. You'll see that. That'll be a piece that'll have an awful lot of the business community. There's a coalition that will go behind it, veterans and military leaders. You'll see a lot of those names in both, several stars worth, as well as all the way through the ranks that show support. We talked earlier about the pastors for Tom Leppert. David Dice, Robert Jeffers probably have as recognizable in the names as anybody else, and you'll see more of the political that will come into play too. So we feel very good. People love to play the endorsement game. I saw it when I was running for mayor. The reality of it is, and we'll have those that people can see, but the reality of it is they're electing an individual. They're not electing all of these other people, and people from other parts of the state or other states can try to wage in on this. And in the end, it's going to be the people of Texas are going to identify who can best represent them. They're going to understand that the critical issues are the economic ones. Those are the ones that we have to get right. We've got to get them right today. It's going to take someone that's not a politician, someone that's not looking for a career, and someone that really brings the business perspective of having great jobs, cut spending, and that's what's going to carry the day, and that's what we feel pretty comfortable about.
Okay, well, thanks again for doing the interview, and good luck in your next venue. I know it's probably packed.
Super.